Jeremy here. If you know me, you know I'm not very well worded and I have some troubles speaking as well, but I took some notes here and I thought I'd share them with you. I have some serious concerns about the leadership in place at Wizards of the Coast. I'm going to tell you a little bit why I feel the way I do. I'm just 33 years old, but I've had the fortunate experience of working for and with some really amazing leaders. It started 10 years ago. I worked alongside one of the best leaders I have interacted with in business. He shared helpful management styles, the importance of understanding one's strengths and weaknesses, and even taught me some of the day-to-day business tools that I use to this day, like the Rockefeller methods, things like that. Useful nuggets about putting people in the right position to grow. In my time there, we grew the company from $8 million in size to just over $30 million in about 2 years. Leadership was the most important reason for this success. Since leaving that place, I've gone out on my own and I interact regularly with roughly 20 or so different CEOs and people in leadership positions at businesses at a pretty regular basis. As the nature of my business, of course, is interacting directly with these sorts of people. My point is, I've seen what great leadership looks like, and I've seen what inept leadership looks like. The first and most important quality of any leader is to define reality. That's not my saying, but in my experience, it's proven 100% true. And from my observation, at least on the publicly facing side, leadership is failing badly at defining reality at Wizards of the Coast. So allow me to take a stab at it. First of all, Wizards of the Coast is in charge of the best trading game of all time. I think it's probably pretty hard to argue that when you factor in size of player base, revenue, things like that. But a couple other realities I think are true are also that Wizards of the Coast is in way over their heads. Shorter periods between sets is burning a lot of people out. Quality control is degrading at an alarming rate. Wizards of the Coast has a terrible reputation as a place to work. MTGO is a complete embarrassment, and Magic is miles away from being any kind of relevant esport. Wizards of the Coast does not pay enough to afford high-quality talent. Employees are not held accountable for mistakes. Wizards of the Coast cannot innovate outside of their own card game and refuses to invest in someone who can. Wizards of the Coast has very little idea of what their core players actually want and generally caters to the vocal minority. Wizards of the Coast also has a real image problem with casual players who pay their bills as being money grubbing, to put it nicely. Let me also say that many of those in positions of power or influence at Wizards of the Coast are likely great people. Fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, and all have real lives and bills to pay. I will not be calling out specific people nor asking for anyone to be fired. These are not my decisions to make or even suggest. I don't know what certain people's skill sets are, and they may still have a lot of value to the company, but in a different role, and that would be just fine as well. It is clear to me, as someone who has been around the game since Revised, that the task of growing and maintaining this living thing we call Magic the Gathering has simply gotten too big and too complex for some of our favorite people at Wizards to handle anymore. The lack of polish and real-world experience is starting to leak out far too frequently these days, whether it's increasing number of misprints, printing errors, things like forgetting energy tokens, for example, or the countless brand new out-of-the-pack damaged cards I myself have opened on camera, are just some of the ways that it's manifesting. Others include seemingly out-of-touch product changes like MTGO crates, the quick reactions to a vocal minority, which really leads me to believe that either the ideas are not well thought out or those in charge fail to get any sort of player feedback during the conception of the idea in the first place, something that's entirely inexcusable when you have allegedly 20 million players. In the case of MTGO, you also have all those players' email addresses. Anyway, things like letting personal ideologies drive business decisions. These are all things small-time companies might be able to get away with, but Wizards of the Coast simply has zero excuse and is totally unacceptable. Here's some random thoughts on each of these issues. On the staff, you simply cannot keep hiring fans willing to work for less because it's Wizards. You need to invest real money into real talent. Real talent demands real money. You also need to take a close look at your culture. There seems to be a huge disconnect with what you say it's like to work there and what all the people leaving say your company is like. One or two disgruntled former employees, sure, but there's simply too much evidence to ignore. Just look at your Glassdoor reviews. On some of the gimmicks, you cannot keep letting everyone else do the innovating only to repackage it as your unique idea. The whole idea of the Masterpiece Collection, for example, isn't fooling anyone. I fail to see how this is anything but a direct ripoff of the secret rare model in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. Frankly, it looks a little desperate. There is some percentage chance that you were being honest and that you just wanted to lower the price of standard, but it seems like basically crowdfunding it via more chase rares, while it may be effective, is not the only way that you could have done that. Making better tournament decks, dual decks, lowering the price of packs, lowering the rarity of cards that you know will be playable in standard are just a few examples of other alternatives. On MTGO, look, it's time to move on. I would say your trust with the players is at an all-time low, and that's going to show up on your balance sheet, I'm sure. If you actually believe that Magic the Gathering is a top 5 esport, then you need to show us some real investment. Take some of the millions of dollars players are trading for cardboard and give us an online interface that actually works, looks good, one that's immersive, and one that's stable. If this is something you already have in development, then you need to involve the community. You need to get feedback. I think we can all agree that when you try to do something good, it usually blows up in your face. Hire a real development company. Invest real money into this. Don't try to handle it yourself. You make a great card game. Focus on doing what you do best and stop trying to be good at things you just are not. I remember early when in my career I had to take these group team building exercises, and we had to read the books of a guy that in generally made me kind of nauseous, John Maxwell, but he had a way of repackaging general business ideas in these cheesy ways. But he would say, don't put your ducks in eagle school, or whatever the case may be. Basically saying, do what you do best and then don't set people up to fail. There's no shame in that. It's not possible for someone to be the best at everything, even if you do. But if you do this right, you can secure your game's long-term future. Everything will start and end with the software. You can't just slap some jerseys and headphones on pros simply to give the illusion of an esport. If you really believe MTG can compete, make some bold moves. This sticking a toe in the water is a recipe for prolonged pain. You need to fail faster. Embrace that. Also, the name Magic Digital Next is awful. Do not use that. Some more thoughts on being an esport. I'm making a huge assumption here that you're going to get the new Magic Online product right. But if you want people to watch Magic the Gathering on stream, whether it's digital or physical cards, you have to increase the prize pots. The payouts in this game are laughable when compared to the variance one must face to reach the top levels of this game. People don't care about a whopping $50,000 prize pool. People will tune in and watch if they're watching a best-of-5 series for $1 million, though. Don't tell me it can't be done. Dota and other esports seem to have no issue raising funds for huge prize pots. The bigger the prize, the better the talent you will attract. With a large prize pot and deep payouts, you will no longer have to pay the pros either, because 10th place might very well pay as much as they would have made as a, quote, appearance fee, which is a joke anyway. Have $1 million prize pool or something like that, and see what it does for your interest levels online. I think we can all remember when Joe Everyman Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker. Look what it did for that game. Let's talk about other formats for a minute too. There's a perception that I'm privy to because of my subscriber base that most aren't, that Wizards doesn't want to support any of the other formats because it doesn't sell packs. The pros whined about Modern being on the Pro Tour, so it got killed. This is my perception. It's also my perception that thousands of people would love to play Modern, Legacy, or other formats, but the cards or avenues to get them do not exist. So why not create it? Why not sell high-end proxy decks and allow the people to play the formats they love? Why not explore what this potential lawsuit would look like for abolishing the reserve list? Maybe the increase in sales would cover any possible backlash or potential lawsuit that we all know you probably wouldn't lose anyway, because who could litigate that against a huge company? Why not pay more attention to reprinting cards that people actually need in a more creative way than low print run cash grab products like Eternal and Modern Masters? It's my opinion these products exist purely to passively profit off the secondary market and cares little about actually helping those formats. If it did, the packs would be $4, the print runs would be huge, and Tarmogoyfs would be $15. To wrap it up, Wizards of the Coast has built an empire on the trust and dollars of hardworking fans of the game, and the company has let us down in a number of ways. You can blame profit goals or corporate ownership, but I actually believe that much of their failures come from weak leadership, unplanned rapid growth, and placing too much importance on feelings. Better leadership would have cleared house on the MTGO staff years ago. Better staff would have publicly addressed the degeneration of print quality and overall quality control on recent print runs with misspellings and damaged cards. Better leadership would know it's not a good idea to publicly ostracize and play favorites with members of your community. Better leadership would not allow half-baked ideas to be rolled out to the public before requesting feedback and thoroughly vetting them. The year-over-year growth is something that I totally understand covers up a lot of mistakes, but the fact of the matter is our game is not going to continue to grow at these rates forever. And when these things become imperative to just sustain the game, if we don't invest and make changes when the things are going good, we won't have the money to do it when the things are bad. The days of some kooky folks out in Seattle running a card game are long gone. We need change. We need corporate culture. We need to stop talking about things and start actually doing them. It's great to be at the top, and I'm sure it feels a bit like it's never going to end. But history is riddled with companies who have had a virtual monopoly only to come crashing down. The good news is, I actually think if Wizards is able to execute even half of what they hope, the game won't just survive, it will continue to flourish and grow to levels beyond anything we could imagine. What's going on? There's some links on this slide to more awesome content, some popular playlists, some recent videos, as well as a big button to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified and never miss an upload.